18 months after the surprise announcement of the AUKUS deal, the sheer scale and cost of Australia's plan to develop nuclear-powered submarines became clear today. But there is plenty of devil in the details, such as the revelation Australia will be responsible for the radioactive waste when the subs are eventually retired. Here's Chief Political Correspondent Laura Tingle.
A mini-summit on the west coast of America, which is likely to have far-reaching implications for the future security of the whole world.
The United States is a Pacific power. Our leadership in the Pacific has been the benefit to the entire world. This partnership is going to mean an awful lot for good-paying jobs for all workers in our countries, including a lot of union jobs.
The scale, complexity and economic significance of this investment is akin to the creation of the Australian automotive industry in the post-World War II period. And just as the vision of my predecessors, Curtin and Chifley, in creating our automotive industry lifted up our entire manufacturing sector, this investment will be a catalyst for innovation and research breakthroughs that will reverberate right throughout the Australian economy and across every state and territory.
There was a lot of talk about historic investments and unprecedented ties in San Diego today. At times, you'd almost be forgiven for thinking the US President and Australian Prime Minister were talking mostly about a major manufacturing initiative. It took UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak to mention the elephant in the room.
Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine, China's growing assertiveness, the destabilising behaviour of Iran and North Korea, all threaten to create a world defined by danger, disorder and division.
The staggering $368 billion price tag might have captured the first headlines this morning. The emphasis on the job-creating powers of new submarine fleets may have provided the distraction, but the profound implications of Australia's decision will have a long half-life in terms of both our place in the world and in the nature of our domestic politics. AUKUS is clearly being pitched as a deterrent to China, not a provocation. Whether that proves to be the case, consistent spending for the next 3 decades of a magnitude that puts us on a de facto war footing changes the balances of all arguments about how governments spend our money and about how our politicians are judged. The sheer scale of this project and its strategic call of aligning ourselves so closely with the US against China will put a new emphasis on foreign policy and defence into our politics. By putting defence spending at the centre of manufacturing strategy, the government is also putting the military at the heart of the budget and economic strategy. For Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, it offers the political prospect of making the Labor Party the car-key party. Critics argue it has also potentially put us at the heart of an alarming new acceleration in nuclear proliferation.
I can't think of anything that's done more damage to the non-proliferation regime in decades. What it says is that a country like Australia, which has sworn never to get nuclear weapons under the non-proliferation treaty, can acquire tons of highly enriched uranium that is sufficient for hundreds of nuclear weapons. And that goes against everything the world has been doing for the last 50 years. Every other country is going to cite this as a double standard.
One of the big selling points for this whole plan has been that nuclear reactors powering the submarines would be sealed away for the life of the boat. But today it was revealed that Australia will have to deal with tons of highly enriched uranium, or HEU waste, at the end of the submarine's life.
All along, it was sold to the Australian public as, oh, don't worry, this HEU will be in welded reactors, welded inside the submarine. Well, guess what? After the submarine's life is over, you pop open the submarine and you remove the HEU, and Australia said today that HEU will stay in Australia, and it will still be very highly enriched and still nuclear weapon usable.
Long before Australia has to find a site to store its still highly enriched used uranium, there will be a 3-phase rollout of the AUKUS plan.
I think we've embarked on an extremely complicated process with a lot of moving parts, and it does seem to me there are an awful lot of risks in it. So I think the chances of all of this unfolding as the leaders outlined this morning in San Diego, on the schedule they outlined is very low indeed, and I think that contains very serious risks for Australia's future submarine capability.
It's extraordinary to think that a Labor government has turned, more in sorrow than in anger to making a massive investment in nuclear-powered submarines such a great nation-building enterprise. But I think that the gravity of the strategic intelligence assessments that they've seen over the past year convinces them that this is what's needed to protect Australia's future in the Indo-Pacific.
I think what we're investing in is a minimalist capability which would work should anybody directly attack Australia, but to think that 2 or at most 3 nuclear-powered submarines would change the course of a war is, I think, a huge leap in faith and simply not credible.
The first phase will see an increased rotation of US and UK nuclear-powered submarines visiting Australia. At the same time, Australia will spend $6 billion during the next 4 years on infrastructure upgrades in Perth and Adelaide, and will pump $3 billion into the US to help accelerate its building of the Virginia-class submarines.
This is a very serious signal of strategic intent. This is a phased approach to making a material difference to the strategic balance. If China wasn't unhappy about this because of the material difference it makes to their ability to coerce other countries, then China wouldn't be making such a diplomatic fuss about this.
The second phase will have Australia buy 3 and possibly 5 Virginia-class submarines from the United States, which will be where the capability pressures start to show and the strategic demands may also matter.
We're finding it difficult to operate the conventional submarines we've got already, and so to acquire 3 submarines with double the crew is a very, very big ask, I think.
The proposal for us to buy US Virginia-class submarines as a stopgap before the AUKUS submarines come online is, I think, a very problematic one. It would not be agreeing to provide Virginia-class submarines to Australia unless it was absolutely sure that in the event that America goes to war with China over something like Taiwan, then Australia and Australia's submarines would be fully available for America, for American purposes.
Let's just see whether an Australian government at the time thinks that that is such a smart thing to do. I mean, we're not an ally in any way of Taiwan, and we do accept that Taiwan is inevitably part of China. So we'd have a lot of strategic hurdles to jump there.
Today's announcement binding Australia's biggest defence project to the United States and the United Kingdom has the backing of both major parties.
This is a necessary decision that's been taken by the government, and AUKUS is a huge achievement. I want to give this commitment to the Australian people today that come hell or high water, the Coalition will support AUKUS. AUKUS will continue, and it must, because the times demand of it.
It will take decades. It will require constant investment, a constant renewal of vows among the three countries, their industrial bases, their academic bases, their security establishments, and that will require bipartisanship constantly across the 3 countries.